Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We're continuing our SEC football predictions today, and our next team started the season 1-5 but won 6 straight games to get to a bowl game and are looking to improve on last year's record. They are the Missouri Tigers. Odom is entering his 3rd year as the Tigers head coach, and this is by far his best team yet. The Tigers returned 16 starters, 9 on offense and 7 on defense. Now on offense, they're led by one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, period, in Drew Lock, who is just less than 4,000 yards away from being the all-time leading passer in Missouri history. They also have Damarea, Crockett at running back, so obviously a good alternative there. They're going to be strong through the air, but also strong on the ground. And on defense, they have 7 returning starters and have a very strong linebacking core filled with a lot of upperclassmen as well as the secondary. I believe there's only 1 or 2 underclassmen in that secondary. So a defense that has struggled a little bit during the Barry Odom era should be much stronger this year. And like I said, they were 1-5 to start the year last year, but took advantage of that weaker schedule of the second half to go 6-0 down the stretch to get to a 7-5 regular season record before losing 33-16 to Texas in the Texas Bowl. But nonetheless, Barry Odom has his Missouri team poised to make another bowl game, and they have a lot of talent. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. To start off with UT Martin, which should be no problem for Missouri whatsoever. An easy win there, and a great way to see kind of where this team stands and how they look. I'm personally more concerned about the defense, and I said they are going to be stronger than they have in years past. I'm not concerned about the offense at all. I know they can put up big numbers. Missouri last year had 6 games with 500 or more yards of total offense, and they returned 9 of those starters from last year. So I'm not concerned one bit about the offense, despite losing their offensive coordinator to take the Central Florida head coaching job. But the defense, that's going to be the major key here. They play Wyoming at home. This game would be a lot more intriguing if Josh Allen had not departed for the NFL. Drew Lock versus Josh Allen would be a lot of fun to watch. Nonetheless, Missouri gets a big home game here against a Mountain West opponent. Wyoming returns a lot of their starters, including a lot on defense. So if that defense can slow down Drew Lock and this high-octane offense, maybe they can hang with Missouri for a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to give them the win against Wyoming. And then Purdue. This is another intriguing matchup, an SEC versus a Big Ten team. If you remember last year, Purdue came into Missouri and won 35-3. Missouri and that high-octane offense could only manage 3 points against Jeff Brom and what a Boilermaker team he had last year, going all the way to the Foster Farms Bowl and winning that game against Arizona. So he did a great job there. They returned 13 starters, 9 on offense as well. So I could see this game being a shootout, but only 4 on defense. And the defense is going to be the weak side for Purdue. And despite it being on the road, I'm going to give Missouri the win here. And that's going to be due to Purdue's weaker defense, especially early on in the season. And they might not have been able to fix everything. And obviously the strength of Missouri's offense and the addition of having revenge on their mind after getting blown out by 32 points at home just the year before. So big-time road win against a solid Purdue team who should be able to get back to a bowl on the road. And then they get Georgia, the national runner-up from last year. They weren't really able to compete down in Athens just last year, but gave the Bulldogs a fight 2 years ago in Missouri, losing only 28-27 in the finals minute. So this could be another close game I could see, but in the end, I think Georgia's going to have too much talent there. I like Drew Lock a little bit more over Jake Fromm, but Jake Fromm I think is a little more accurate, very conservative. DeAndre Swift, a very solid running back there, and I think the Georgia defense, despite returning less starters than the Missouri defense, is still going to be a little bit better. And despite it being in Columbia, I'm going to give Missouri a loss here and a big-time win for Georgia. And one problem for Missouri is that they get their bye week so early. It's at the very end of September, so they're going to have to play, about 8 games straight without any rest. So that's going to be a little bit of a cause of concern for Missouri, but they get that bye week going into a big game against South Carolina on the road, a team that can very well compete against Georgia, not only probably for the SEC's crown, but more than likely for the second place spot behind Georgia. But this game's on the road against another good offense. Jake Bentley, Rico Dowdle, A.J. Turner, Deebo Samuel, solid offensive line, and 6 returning starters on that defense that should be solid under Will Muschamp. This South Carolina team is one that I expect a lot out of this year. Expect to have a very solid year. in Will Muschamp's third year as well, and it's on the road. I don't see Drew Lock coming in here and having a great day. It's going to be a very hostile environment. I'm going to give Missouri a loss here, and unfortunately, they're going to have to go to back-to-back hostile environments because the next week they go on the road to Bryant-Denny Stadium at Alabama, who's going to really, in my opinion, win just about every game they play this year. I have them at 12-0. They have a very, very favorable schedule. So much talent on both sides of the ball, despite only having 3 starters back on that defense. Tua Tagovailoa is going to have a big day. It's going to be fun to see the quarterbacks and how they go up against each other. But I think this Alabama defense at home is going to really dominate this Missouri offense. It's going to be putting up a lot of big numbers up until this point and really get shut down against the Crimson Tide. So a loss here on the road. And then they get Memphis. This is Missouri's homecoming. Memphis, certainly not a team they need to overlook. They are going to be a huge contender in the American Athletic Conference. But nonetheless, should be a win here for Missouri. No worries there. And then they get Kentucky at home. And this is a Kentucky team that I've stressed that I liked Steven Johnson a lot last year. And I thought he played well. This year they bring in I believe it's Terry Wilson in at quarterback, who could do well for the Wildcats, but it's a new quarterback. Those are always sometimes hard to break in. Benny Snell, a very solid running back here. I expect this game to be close for about a half because Kentucky's defense is very solid. Plenty of NFL caliber players on that side of the ball for sure. So they could give Drew Lock and Damarea, Crockett, and some of those guys a bit of an issue, but it's at home, and I expect Missouri's offense to end up weighing down the Kentucky defense because they can only hold up for so much. I think this is going to be a game where Missouri's defense is going to play a major role shutting down that Kentucky offense, and they're going to get a home win against Kentucky, and that's going to be big for them. On the road at Florida, a team they annihilated last year in Columbia, mostly due to the fact that Georgia was just a team in turmoil last year, going 4-7, firing Jim McElwain, but now they bring in Dan Mullen and 19 returning starters. This offense is going to be completely different from what we saw in the McElwain era. I don't see them pulling off this win on the road at Florida. So a loss here for the Tigers. And then Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Arkansas. That's going to be really interesting to see. This three-game stretch here, and they're sitting at 5 wins right now, so they're going to need to win at least one of those, 2 of those at home, very favorable for them. Vanderbilt's coming off a bye week, coming in to this November 10th game, and I like this Vanderbilt team just a little bit. I like Kyle Shermer at the quarterback position. I like Derek Mason coaching his defense with 5 returning starters on that side of the ball. But they're going to struggle to make a bowl game. It's going to be very borderline between that 5 and 6 win mark. This could be a big game on Vanderbilt's schedule, but it's at Missouri. I don't think their defense is going to be that good to stop this offense against Missouri. And Missouri gets to bowl eligibility right before the season ends with a win over Vanderbilt. And then Tennessee and Arkansas. This Tennessee team is very confusing to me. They got 6 returning starters on offense and 6 on defense. Jeremy Pruitt comes in as head coach, defensive coordinator from Alabama. This is a team that can really go either way. They can have a horrible season, 3-9, 4-8, or they can potentially get to that 6-6 mark and get to a bowl game. It could really go either way, and you'll have to check that out when we do our Tennessee predictions. But this one's on the road. Jeremy Pruitt, this late in the season, if they're close to bowl eligibility or trying to get to a bowl berth, is going to have his team hyped. I'm predicting Tennessee to pull off an upset here against Missouri. And if you remember 2 years ago, this was a big-time shootout. I know teams have changed, players have changed, coaches have changed, but this is going to be an interesting environment down in Knoxville at Neyland Stadium. And I think Tennessee gets a big-time win that could help their bowl causes over a solid Missouri team. I think they're going to be hyped for this game. And that is a loss for Missouri there. And then Arkansas to close out the year. Last year and the year before, thrilling games. 48-45 shootout last year that marked the end of the Brett Bielema era. And just 2 years ago, Arkansas blowing a 24-7 lead at Missouri. And Missouri coming all the way back to win 28-24. This year, Arkansas bringing in Chad Morris. An offense I could see being similar to Missouri, not at talent-wise, but in terms of style. But I think Missouri owns the edge on the offensive side of the ball, but Arkansas might own the edge on the defensive side of the ball with John Chavis and a new scheme there and plenty of returning starters. However, it's going to be the day after Thanksgiving. I could see maybe Arkansas battling for a bowl berth here in this game. Missouri's already clinched it, but nonetheless, I'm going to give Missouri a win. I think they're going to end up wearing down that Arkansas defense that really could go either way this year in year 1 under John Chavis, but Missouri gets to win over the Razorbacks, and that's going to give them a 7-5 record on the 2018 season, which is exactly what they had last year, but surely nothing to complain about as a Missouri fan. because Barry Odom's going to have them pointing in the right direction. Drew Lock more likely is going to break that all-time passing record. They're going to be 7-5, go to a decent bowl game again. Hopefully they'll win that one to get to an 8-5 mark, which is not bad. Barry Odom has his team trending up after a disastrous year one. It's definitely going to have them, back-to-back 7-5 seasons and potentially improving upon that 7-6 record from last year. So solid year for the Missouri Tigers. Schedule fairly light, not too bad. Only 5 losses, the majority of those coming on the road. All of those coming on the road, actually, except for the Georgia game, and that is to be expected and understandable. So, very solid year, tons of talent. I can't wait to see what Barry Odom does with his Tigers team for the 2018 season. As always, please go check us out on Twitter @GridironExpert and on Instagram @TheGridironExpert, and always here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.